tomorrow in English, which is one of Egypt's main opposition groups. Meanwhile, Kifaya is an intellectual grouping led by George Ishak. Its members want a liberal and democratic Egypt. And you've also got the April 6th movement, which has been organising the pro-democracy protests using social media, Twitter and Facebook. So that's a bit of background as to the opposition group. The other element, if you like, which you always have to think about in what's happening in Egypt is the army. And on the line, we have a retired Egyptian army officer, Adel Mustafa, who is in Alexandria. Thank you for your time, sir. What do you make of the way that the army is engaging here, or in fact not engaging, still very much sitting on the sidelines?
The army will take a stand role. He will not take any positive role. The army will never shoot at the people. The army will keep peace. What I want to say is I'm asking the demonstrators and the opposition to cool down and to start a constructive discussion with the government, with Mubarak. Mubarak has accepted not to stand for the September 2011 election. That was the first requirement of the protesters. The second requirement was to dismiss the parliament, and this can happen in few weeks' time. The other thing is to have a coalition government, and this is fair. But what they're doing now is just wasting time and effort and for no good reason.
So you think they're not acknowledging that this regime is doing things? President Mubarak has said he wants to leave, and Vice President Suleiman said we won't use force against you, that they should actually, if not accept that, then at least acknowledge it.
There is no difference between Mubarak and Suleiman. They are all the same. It's the same dynasty. It's the same government. So things has to come in steps. Initially, Mubarak accepted not to stand for the election. Now, dialogue has to start with the current president or the current acting officers to dismiss the parliament and to start to do or to have a new election.
So then who should do the talking? I just read out some names earlier about opposition leaders. One of them, someone's got to jump up and take control of the situation if there is to be any dialogue. Who's going to do that?
The dialogue has to be with the opposition and the protester.
But who? But who? Because they've got to have a figurehead at some point, someone who almost negotiates on their behalf.
That's the main problem. They are young people and they are not organized and they have no director. They have no one to talk in their name. So they have to stop this demonstration, because unless there is someone to talk and discuss and logically, they are wasting time and effort. So they have to come together and decide who will talk in their name. They have to decide.
Oh, thank you, Adel Mustafa. Just wanted to thank you there, retired Egyptian army officer on the line from Alexandria, giving us plenty to think about, and we're going to do that with Sharif El Musa, who's with us in the studio, professor of political science at Georgetown University here in Doha. What the retired general was saying to us there is that someone's got to stand up and negotiate for these people on screen, these people in the Opposition Liberation Square, because without a leader, they can't do anything, they can't be effective. Do you think that's fair?
Well, it is up to the protesters to decide on this, not really up to me or to the...
No, of course not. But are they going to make any difference if they just sit there in the square and protest without someone leading them?
I think they are refusing to talk in part until President Mubarak agrees to step down. That is really the first demand. And if he agrees, I imagine, the ball will get rolling. But I don't think they will nudge, they will be moved without Mubarak.
So no one's going to move. Mubarak's not going to move, and the protesters aren't going to move from wanting Mubarak to move effectively. Stalemate.
Well, now it is, it is still, you know, they are locking horns. I guess someone will have to blink. I think President Mubarak, you know, has a wonderful offer for honorable exit, and he should take it. Egyptian culture is quite tolerant, and they are not asking for revenge or anything like this. And I think the sooner he leaves, I think the better. He said he is fed up, but he's worried that chaos will reign. I don't think so. I mean, Egypt is a 5,000-year-old country, and I think it will. It can survive his absence.
Look, in 12 days, it's seen plenty of chaos, regardless of what would be to come. What do you think reflects? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is chaos. This is ultimate in some ways. I mean, the demonstrators have been ultimately orderly. It is when the state security intervened that we saw chaos. It wasn't really the protesters that brought chaos into the street. They were very organized, it seems, from all the stuff that we saw on television.
Quick thought on the army, seeing as we were talking to a retired army general there who said the army will never take a side, basically. Good or a bad thing? Or do they need to...
He shouldn't take side. Well, this is a very tough question, because in some ways, of course, the army says it is not taking sides. But who is the prime minister? He comes from the army. President Mubarak is the chief of staff, the commander-in-chief.
Commander-in-chief, yeah.
So Tantawi was there yesterday. So they are in the government. I mean, although they say they are not, but they are not doing anything, to harm the protesters. But they are in the government also at the moment.
Sharif El-Moussa, it's been great talking to you. Thank you for your thoughts. Professor Sharif joining us from Georgetown University here in Doha, discussing some of the political ramifications as we look at Liberation Square right now, a much quieter scene. People listening to speeches there. The fervour of Friday has certainly died down, but the movement's still strong in numbers, certainly. Thousands of pro-democracy protesters continuing to sit in. They're still demanding President Hosni Mubarak step down. He's still not going anywhere. His Prime Minister says the government's working as it should. We heard that from Ahmed Shafiq, who was on state television, saying orders had not been given to obstruct people's right to express themselves. He said any mistakes that have been made are local and because of bad implementation by officers on the ground. So attempts at a bit of damage control from the government there. Also heard from US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Because the region is being battered by a perfect storm of powerful trends.
Yes, she's warning that perfect storm in the Middle East if reforms aren't implemented. That's at a security conference that's ongoing in Munich at the moment, and some stronger words than we've heard, certainly from anyone in the international community. And then also there's the gas pipeline which exploded in El Arish. It supplies both Israel and Jordan. Those are your headlines from Egypt. Back in half an hour.
Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Can the world produce enough food to sustain our growing population? Even today, it's said, there are 1 billion people who are starving. What will happen when the world's population increases from around 7 billion to 9 billion people? Are there solutions available, or are we faced with a future where hundreds of millions will die of hunger, where mass migration will be the only escape, where food riots will become commonplace? I'm delighted to be joined, first of all, here now from Philadelphia by the one and only Carl Lewis, who won 9 Olympic gold medals, of course, for the United States. and who is now the Goodwill Ambassador for the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. Carl, welcome. Welcome to the program. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Now, let me start by, I was saying there that you'd taken on this job with the UN on the food front. There must have been millions of people and hundreds of organizations who would like to have you as their ambassador. You were very much in demand by them all.